Hey, thanks for coming back, folks. Andrew here at BTO Range in Conroe, Texas. And today on the bench, a little piece of Ithaca from the 60s and 70s. This is an Ithaca Model 49, a little 22 rifle. I know what it looks like, but this is the single shot version of the gun. And we'll go over the mechanics of this guy in just a minute. But why would they make such a gun as a beginning boy's gun? So let's clear it real quick before we start handling it. So it's a single shot. So it's got, a lot of people refer to it as a martini type action, reference to martini rifles. And it is a dropping breech action similar to a martini. It's activated by this lever here. So we can point it this way where you can see this bolt here. As I operate the lever, it drops the bolt down and then it becomes a ramp where you can feed the cartridge directly into the chamber. Notice the lever did not actuate the hammer, so the gun still has to be manually cocked in order to fire it once the breech is closed again. And this gun was available in 22 long rifle, which this gun is. Obviously, we'll shoot shorts or longs. And it was available in a 22 Magnum version. They were made between 1961 through the late 70s, 78, 79. And Ithaca was in a bit of a flux during that period in the late 70s. So it kind of sputtered and died rather than having a hard drop dead date. So 61 through 78 or 79. And it was made in three different grades. They had the standard grade, which is this guy here. They had a deluxe grade with nicer wood. And then they even had a presentation grade with really highly figured wood and gold trigger and things of that nature. A lot of accents, a lot of dressing up of the rifle. Same basic action during that time period also. So they also made a bicentennial model for St. Louis, city of St. Louis. Somewhere around 200, 220 of those guns were made. And then there were store brands of the gun as well. There were guns marketed under the Ted Williams name for Sears and probably other hardware / department stores that were in the gun business at that time. So the magazine tube, what would be the magazine tube on this single shot rifle is fake. It's just there for looks. It's not hollow. There's no spring. There's nothing there. It's strictly there to make it look like a lever action repeating rifle. And why would they do that? Well, in the late 50s, or throughout the 50s, the Western was everywhere. The Western TV shows, the Western movies, but certainly the Western TV shows were making a resurgence. We had Gunsmoke with James Arness, of course. We had Paladin. We had or Have Gun Will Travel. Just bunches and bunches of those old Western TV shows that you can still watch today on various cable channels. But it was such a big deal that Colt even reintroduced the single action with a second generation gun during that time period also. So it was a big deal. It was a big market segment, and Ithaca wanted to capitalize on that with a boy's rifle, and this is what they came up with. So the 49R, which is a repeater version, actual magazine tube, a 15-round repeating rifle, was made from 61 into the early 70s, and then it was supplanted by the Ithaca 72, which we'll get to in just a second. So it was such a strong influence that Ithaca came out with a companion, I don't know if it's a companion necessarily, but a shotgun based along the same line called the Ithaca Model 66, the Super Single from 63 and again into the late 70s. So that was a lever-operated single-shot shotgun in 410, 20, believe 16, and 12 gauge as well. So that was a big part of the Ithaca kind of budget-friendly line, I guess. And there were others. Savage made a gun, the Model 89, which was similar, not identical, but similar, same concept, lever-operated single-shot 22 rifle. And there may have been one or two others, but the ones that you see most often are this Ithaca 49 version, and then that Stevens Savage 89 version. So this gun is serialized. And again, it's extremely hard to date. I don't know that the dating charts exist. The early guns on this series had walnut stocks, and they switched at some point to this hardwood. I've heard it reported, or I've seen it reported, that this is elm. It may well be birch with a stain, and the impressed checkering. The early guns had actual hardwood stocks, and then of course the deluxe grade and the presentation grade had actually fancy hardwood stocks. They went to this flat top, just simple rear sight. When they went to the less expensive wood, it originally had a folding type buckhorn sight on the front. The original guns had a barrel band here with the front sight integral to that barrel band. This is probably a better solution because this is dovetailed into the barrel. It can be drift adjusted if you wanted to. This is certainly drift adjustable here for windage, and you have a step here for elevation on this little gun. So probably the big drawback on the Ithaca 49 is the construction of the receiver. It's not steel, it's not even really aluminum. It is almost a pot metal alloy, kind of a zinc aluminum Zamac kind of alloy that is prone to wear, especially where the steel pins go through or the steel screws go through. So the gun really shouldn't be taken apart unless you have to. You can clean it without taking it apart. You can actually, by dropping that lever down, you can actually get to the bore and the chamber fairly easily. So I wouldn't suggest taking this gun apart routinely because you're going to wear those throughways for the pins and cause some slop in that receiver. So that said, in good condition, these guns work, and they work well. They're actually, in my experience, fairly accurate. One thing you run into if you look at buying one of these is a lot of people have shot .22 short ammunition in it rather extensively, and there's no problem doing that. The gun will certainly do it. However, shooting .22 shorts in a .22 long rifle chamber quite a bit will necessarily leave a ring of crud and firing residue just ahead of where that .22 short case is. And it can make it difficult to chamber the long rifle cartridge into the chamber. So a good cleaning usually will take care of that without any difficulty. So just bear that in mind when you're looking. And that really is not just an Ithaca thing. That's a .22 long rifle thing in general. If you're having difficult extraction or difficult feeding, that's one of the first things you want to look for is to make sure that the chamber is clear of gunk and gook and clean, right? So the Ithaca 49R, we talked about the repeater. It had a lot of problems, again, because of the receiver construction. So Ithaca actually reached out to a German company in Erfurt Machine and Waffenfabrik, otherwise known as IRMA, E-R-M-A, and they started producing for Ithaca what became the Ithaca Model 72 in 1972. We started really seeing them in 1973. That repeater was of better construction. It was better, just a better made gun in general. And actually that gun, and we'll talk about it in another video because there's a little bit of history that actually works its way through to the current Henry repeating arms rimfire lever action rifles is basically that same IRMA gun that was the Ithaca 72 with some small modifications today, which is the H001 Henry lever action 22. So that legacy kind of continues. So also during this time frame, now this gun is serialized. I don't know if these guns were serialized prior to the Gun Control Act of '68. October of '68 is when that went into effect, and then all guns had to be serialized prior to that date. Domestically made rimfire rifles and domestically made shotguns were not required to be serialized up until the effective date of that act or of that law. So I am not sure if these guns made prior to '68 were serialized. I doubt they were. This one certainly is, and has the later features anyway, so it's probably a 70s gun. It's almost certainly a 70s gun. The serial numbers start with 49, and then a string of digits after that. So there's really no way to date it other than it's a later gun or it's an earlier gun, really. So, and the stock material is typically what you're looking for. Now, as a side note, Ithaca also had a plant in Dunnville, Ontario, Canada, that did a lot of assembly on 49s, particularly 49Rs, the repeater guns. Parts were actually shipped to Ontario. The guns were assembled and shipped back. So, not sure what the financial logistics were behind doing that. There had to have been a reason, but in any event, all of these guns, the 49, the 72, the 49R, the 66, all of those similar guns in this series go away around 1978 or certainly 1979. And the reason for that is we have to look at what was going on with Ithaca during that time frame. So Ithaca has been around since the 1880s, right? Smith from L.C. Smith, one of the Smith brothers, broke off and with some partners formed Ithaca. And then they controlled that company until 1967, and it was sold to another company called Baldrich that bought up a bunch of other non-shooting sports industry companies and became a company called General Recreation. They even went public in 1971 on the stock exchange. However, by 1978, they're in Chapter 11. They sold off everything except Ithaca, but they closed the factory for, probably half a year in that 78, 79 time frame. And when they reorganized, a lot of the models went away. So all of those lever guns went away because of that reorganization, if you will. So they ended up doing it again in 85. And that was kind of the death knell. Ithaca is one of those companies that's been in and out and in and out, and they're only kind of barely back in right now. In 87, a company called Ithaca Acquisition bought Ithaca and moved everything to Kings Ferry, New York, started producing, and then moved to Auburn, New York. They couldn't make it. They sold out to a guy named Marshall, Floyd Marshall, moved everything to Upper Sandusky, Ohio, tried to convert everything to CNC machinery to try to make it a little bit more modernized, a little bit easier to produce. And at this point, they're making pretty much just Model 37, Model 87 based shotguns. And they ended up selling it again. And now they sold it again in 2007. They still exist. Ithaca still exists. They're in Upper Sandusky, Ohio. They're making the Model 37 pump shotgun. They're making a Model 1911 pistol. And they're making a version of the 87 called the shotgun called a Deer Slayer, which is an old name from Ithaca from way back in the 70s also. So they don't even use dealers or distributors, except as if you want one of them, you contact the factory, you pay the money, they'll ship it to the dealer you choose. So it's not like we can stock Ithaca 37 shotguns right now. So that's what I mean when I say they're kind of in, kind of not. So let's take a look back again at this gun, having gone through all that and what you would think you'd have to pay for one of these things. So once again, we'll clear it out. We'll just leave this lever open. So you can see it's got a really nice little ejector right here, and these are known for having pretty decent ejection. So until this wears, until we get some wear there, and then we have some wobble in there, and then we can see some poor problems with the connection of the extractor claw to the rim of the case. So that can be an issue. So if you're going to look at one of these, I would suggest making sure that, and this is painted, these were painted at the factory. You can't blue it, you really can't do much with it, so it's a paint. So, and it doesn't look to me like it's been repainted. We have edge wear, but we would absolutely see that. But what I'm looking for is wear marks or not round holes where the holes have been wallowed out. Now that, can you tell I'm from Texas? Wallered out. Wallered out. The holes are not round anymore. They're egg-shaped or wallered out, as you will. So this all looks pretty good. The wood is actually nice, not scratched up. And this is impressed checkering, so you really can't expect a whole lot from that. We're not cracked out here. So you've got a little bit of surface rust on the barrel, but it's easily cleanable. So this gun would be in a lot better shape than most, to be honest with you. So and we have good. We're not pushing off here on the hammer, so we're kind of happy with all that. So there's no reason why that wouldn't be a great shooter for a young person to get started on a 22, and inexpensive. So you'd be hard pressed to pay more than $150. I can't imagine paying more than that. But if some people are getting it, then wonderful. Obviously, there are Ithaca collectors, and obviously the St. Louis Bicentennial gun, just because of the scarcity. Remember the three things we always talk about, right? Originality, condition, and scarcity, right? And these guns, the standard guns, not particularly scarce. I don't have a number on how many were produced. It was a considerable number. And the originality, we're not refinished here. So, and the condition's above average. So I think that 125 or 150-ish is probably a fair number in today's economy for that little gun. Now, the rougher they are, the less the money is. The Magnum will bring a little bit more. The repeater's a different gun. The repeater is going to bring more if it's working. If it's not working, to be honest with you, it would cost more to fix it typically, especially if this receiver's having problems. It would probably cost more to fix it than the value of the gun, or the resale value of the gun. So if they're not working, that's probably the end of it for these little guns. So the 72 is a different rifle. It is... you can't even really make the comparison. It's apples and oranges, other than it's an Ithaca lever action type rifle. So in any event, I thought it was a neat little gun to bring out today and talk about Ithaca. We don't see a lot of Ithaca down here in Texas. It's not been a huge brand. The 37, the pump shotgun, you see them from time to time down here, but not nearly as much as you see up in the northeast part of the country, but you still get them from time to time. They made some other neat little rifles, like the X5 little 22 rimfire rifle. They made a bunch of stuff that you don't really associate with Ithaca all that often, but if we get those, they're worth a video on their own, as is that 72/Irma/Henry, which is worth talking to because of the migration to what's a current rifle. So anyway, if you like what we're doing, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, tell us about it. Hit that notification bell. We try to post stuff every week as we get stuff in. We've got new video stuff out, and we're a new product video out. We've got some take apart videos going on. I don't know that we'll do one on this because I'm not a huge fan of taking these guns apart, to be honest with you. But anyway, we appreciate you watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks.